Hello, hi, greetings. SCS Software, the developers of Euro Truck Simulator 2 and American Truck Simulator. Regardless if you play these games or not, you might have come across one of their games in the Steam charts on occasion and wondered, how on earth is this game up here with the likes of Counter-Strike 2 and Cyberpunk? Today, I wish to welcome you to an isolated island on the continent of gaming. Welcome to the world of trucks. A small minority of you watching probably got the urge to go to the Steam store and check it out, only to realize that either you already own the game, or you saw the $300 worth of DLC and dismissed the game as another incomplete experience. Patience, dear viewer, while the veil of time slowly uncovers, enlightenment shall grace us all. The veil of time being the progress bar down there. Anyway. SCS Software is headed by this guy, Pavel Shabor. You can think of him like the Gabe Newell of Valve or the Tom Howard of Bethesda. That's this guy, but for SCS Software, the poster child and CEO. Along with two other founders, Martin Chesky and his brother Peter Shabor, their surnames turn into the abbreviation, which means that yes, SCS Software stands for Shabor Chesky Chabor Software. I don't know, something about that scratches the funny nerve in my brain. SCS Software is a game maker based in Czechia, and throughout their history they were mostly known for a hefty catalogue of truck driving games and hunting games. Yes, those two titles encompasses pretty much their whole catalogue, and during the release of Euro Truck Simulator 2, Pavel himself stated that if ET2 failed, the next project would have been a bus simulator. Daring, aren't we? Wait, they actually did it? Holy sh... So calling SCS loyal to their fanbase would be a colossal understatement. The first game in the relevant series we'll be talking about, that being the Truck Simulator series, was Euro Truck Simulator. The 1. Released in 2008, this game is definitely dated by today's standards, and not really in a good way. Controls are floaty, menus are old, and it just overall doesn't feel very good to drive. You're supposed to upgrade the handling, but that's the only upgrade that didn't really make any sense to me. Why make the first impression a bad one? I like the art style though. It's dated, even by 2008 standards, but it still retains a level of charm. But the most charming thing about this game must be its brand names for the various trucks, since they hadn't acquired any licenses at this point, with Majestic as a replacement for Mercedes, and Valiant being a valiant effort to replace Volvo's branding. 2 years after Euro Truck 1 came German Truck Simulator and UK Truck Simulator. Other than the fact that they had a banging soundtrack, there isn't much to say about these games, partly because I don't have the means to play them. But the reason I'm giving them a mention is because the maps of these two games will be combined and expanded into something much larger. Euro Truck Simulator 2. Wait a second, that doesn't look like the game we're used to today. Why does it look like Euro Truck Simulator 1 but with branded trucks this time? Well, that's because this game was released in the bygone era of 2012. That's right, Portal 2 had just released, we were still waiting for Grand Theft Auto 5, and we had Euro Truck Simulator 2. Now that's proper hardcore gaming right there. DAF, Volvo, Scania, Iveco, Renault, Mercedes, no, scratch that, they were still Majestic until 2015, and man... I wanted to just quickly show this older version of the game because it's most of the reason why I am making this video. ETS2 has come so far over the years from the original release that it is almost completely unrecognizable. So here we are, modern day Euro Truck Simulator 2. Let's pick up a load and deliver it. Alright, there we did it. We beat the game. Sing the victory song. You might think I'm joking, But no, as far as the goal of the game goes, that's it. Pick up the cargo, deliver it carefully and try to earn a perfect score. And in a sense, it's actually a good thing. ETS2 is a game that first and foremost is easy to understand. A new player has no problem grasping the concept of making a delivery in a truck. Nothing more, nothing less. I think it would be more accurate to call these games something like Euro Truck Experience, because if it was a true simulator, SCS would have included all the complicated and mundane aspects of trucking. But they don't, and that makes the truck simulators appealing to everyone. Young, old, professional and casual. The game does so well in matching the exact expectations of the player when launching the game. A quick step-by-step tutorial and you're off. Little Greg here doesn't need to know about driving time and rest periods, because that's just stupid and unnecessary for a video game. Not simulating the job, simulating the experience. Before we go too deep into this video, I should mention that of course everything I've said also applies to American Truck Simulator. ETS2 is slightly more popular, older, and just in general strikes a better chord with myself. The fact that I'm Swedish might have something to do with that. So just to keep things simple going forward, I'll be showing off mostly ETS2. The games are very similar, so if I'm not saying otherwise, I'm talking about both games. Okay? Okay. Now we know how the first impression kind of looks like, how the game catches players and reels them in. But that's not really enough if you want to maintain a steady player base for over a decade. So what is it that makes people come back time and time again? Well, I kind of spoiled it already. It's updates. Of course it's updates. You think a game today would survive without updates? Updates for the truck simulator games usually come in the form of new trucks, map overhauls, graphic improvements, performance improvements, and of course content. And when I say content, I mean content. The sort that completely changes the gameplay itself. Two examples being the addition of ownable trailers and the ever so requested official multiplayer, since the only way to play multiplayer before was through a mod. Also that. I was just about to finish the script when they announced this. There is also another form of content you can unlock if you connect your profile to World of Trucks. What is World of Trucks? Truck porn and events. The main events that are hosted each year is Christmas, Halloween and Valentine's Day. There are also some extra events hosted for newly released map DLC that you won't be able to participate in unless you have said DLC, but at least you guarantee the regular holiday events that usually tend to have the same rewards anyway. The rewards range from paint jobs to cabin accessories. The way the rewards are handled is really nice because there's basically no fear of missing out, since the rewards tend to always be pretty inessential. And you can still get the event items from the Steam community market for dirt cheap if you really want them. When it comes to the other form of updates, besides completely new content, one of the most noticeable changes has to be the map overhauls. These updates are, as you might guess, complete reworks of older parts of the map. This is a process that is still not done, since half of the present base map is still not completely reworked. So why is it taking so long then, if only half the map has been reworked since launch? I'll answer that with another question. How do you think a map rework is done? Updating textures to a higher resolution? Maybe remodeling some game assets? Yes, you're right. But they also completely rip out an entire country and remake it from scratch with a new layout that is more accurate to real life and resembles absolutely nothing like the old map. Essentially giving you a free map DLC that, yes, does include events sometimes. Speaking of DLC, what you cannot get for free, you'll have to pay for. And of course, SCS needs some sort of income stream if they want to be kept afloat for so long with only 2 active games under their belt. That's where the DLC comes in. Instead of doing some form of annual release for multiple sequels like other simulator games, SCS has decided to stick with their 2 games and make them the largest simulators on the whole market. I do like the way they handle DLC, because they seem to always put the more inconsequential stuff as DLC. For example, they always release all new trucks for free, whereas new branded trailers get released as DLC. I like that, because trucks are always interacted with by everyone, and driving different ones is always noticeable and fun, while trailers is more of a late game extra that you don't even have to interact with. And unless you're a full-on nerd about trucking, you're not gonna be able to tell the difference between different trailers. Therefore, you're not really missing out on anything by not buying it. But the biggest and most anticipated DLCs are the map DLCs. These mostly include a large chunk of countries packed together into one, but if the countries are large enough, then they get their own dedicated DLCs. For American Truck it's a bit different, since they tend to always have one DLC for each new state, which does mean that the expansions for ATS are much smaller, but in turn more frequent and cheaper. This is the only type of DLC where you might actually be missing out on some certain things. But even here it can be argued that you don't really need a map DLC either, since unless you've explored all of the base map, there's not much reason to get a map DLC, unless you really want to explore a specific region. As for the paint job DLCs, don't bother, you already have a large amount of paint jobs in the base game and most of them look better than the DLCs anyway. So if you do plan on buying DLC, please heed my advice. Always look for bundles and always wait for sales. SCS makes some hefty discounts around holidays and DLC releases, especially for the main game. I've seen it be as high as 90% off, and that goes for some of the older DLC as well. But at the end of the day, if you're iffy about getting DLC, console at least in my opinion that you don't need any of them. The base game is very much a complete experience as is, and you can decide later if you have an itch for more. Even then, if you don't find anything that suits you personally, or you simply don't want to fork out the money and you can't wait for the next update, you've always got the modding scene. Euro Truck 2 and American Truck probably has one of the most expansive modding communities out there, partly due to SCS's full embracement of mods, even having some of their own employees making their own mods for both games. I won't cover the modding scene too in depth, partly because I think you've already played a game with a modding scene before, and also because though I've tried out some mods, I never really dug deep into what it can offer. I'm more of a vanilla player, so I don't think I could do it justice here. But in essence, mods offer everything from tasteful improvements to the vanilla game to this. There really is something out there for everybody. This last section is gonna be some of my own opinions, what I think the game is, and what made me stick around. One of the reasons I think the games are so popular is due to something more external. I have no proof of this, these are just my thoughts, so bear with me. Trucks exist anywhere in the world. Where there's people, there will always be trucks. So let me ask a question. Have you ever wondered what it's like to drive such a big vehicle? Your answer may be either yes or no, but undoubtedly, some of you would have said yes. Because you can't really get that experience without getting a license yourself. Compared to something like a bus or a coach simulator, a bus is for people. You ride it, so in a way, you get the experience of what it's like to ride a bus. But for trucks, I can probably speak for most when I say they have never seen the inside of a truck in real life. There's something inherently mysterious about that experience, and the truck simulators are pretty much the only way you'll quell that curiosity outside of just watching a YouTube video. Not to mention, you can actually learn real-life skills with this. And not just driving, teach yourself to back up with a trailer, even get some knowledge of geography. Before the Balkans DLC, I had no clue what and where the countries down here were. Or just teach yourself to drive a bit, if you don't have a license yet. It's definitely better than nothing. Personally, I played this game since the age of 14, and I definitely give this game partial credit as to why I had such an easy time getting my driver's license. And it's 90% the reason why I decided to get certified in real life. I wish I had some form of data on this, but I think it's no grand idea to assume that a significant portion of the player base for both games is made up of people who are real-life truck drivers, me being part of that demographic. And to tie it all off, it's cheap. Cheap to buy, cheap to run, and unlike many other vehicle games, you don't need an expensive wheel or even a controller. You can play this game just fine on keyboard. It's what I did before I got my first shitty Microsoft wheel with broken force feedback, and this is where curiosity comes into play again. When you've already started playing. What would the game feel like on a wheel? What would it feel like on a slightly better wheel? Maybe with a shifter? What would it feel like in VR? I can answer that last one, is not great. But again, this is all optional. You don't need a wheel to play, you don't need all the DLC, you don't even need an internet connection. All you need for the full experience is a PC and the base game. I'm going to end off this video with the corniest sentence I've ever spoken. Euro Truck Simulator 2 is all about the journey. It's different from many other video games on that top sellers list. Instead of revolving around an objective, a story, a high score, or overcoming something difficult. It kind of depends on the player to create the meaning of the game themselves. Be that exploring the map and seeing different countries, driving different trucks with varying cargo, the incredible amount of customization, or a combination of all. Those are just a few examples that make the end goal fun to do. It's a reason to come back, because you could always do something slightly different. The premise is simple, but it's the way that ETS2 delivers that experience.